Video, I will show you how you can do live monitoring using your laptop. First of all, you need to use the receiver. You need to connect the white receiver with your laptop. There are two ways to connect the receiver. One is using the USB cable, and the other way is to connect to the receiver's Wi-Fi. You should be able to see the Wi-Fi of the receiver in your laptop's Wi-Fi list, and you can connect it and enter the password. The password is at the back of the receiver. The receiver's name is usually Catapult Receiver with the ID numbers. Once it's connected, you can press this start button on the console. And once the receiver is detected by the laptop, you can see on the top right, there's a start button. It will be lighting up. If it's gray, that means the receiver is not recognized by the laptop. So you can change different USB ports, or you can try to restart the receiver. Okay. Now the receiver is connected. You can start your live session. You can right click here and create a new activity. And you can enter the activity name. For example, put your date here. And it's a training session. And you can select your day code. If it's match day -2. You can also select other activity tags as well. And you can create the activity. Now you can turn this button on. You can press this button. And then you will see in the active players box, there will be players showing up. So this basically means I have right now 7 players turned on their devices, and these 7 devices are recognized by the receiver. So usually it will take around 10 seconds to show up once you turn on the devices. You can also check the device's LED lights. The yellow lights should be solid once they are connected to the receiver. Okay, now we can start the activity. There are 2 ways to create the period and start looking at the data. The first way is to select the players first and then create activity. So for example, I can select all players here and press this plus period button. So now what it does is it is creating a period using the players that are selected here. And you'll see the data is updating down here in the table as well. And you will see the period is running here. If you want to rename the period, you can double click and rename it as something like warm up and apply the changes. If I want to stop the period, if I want to stop the warm up, I can right click here and stop. You'll see it's no longer running anymore. And now what if I want to create 2 periods? What if I have 2 groups of players training at the same time, but they are training different things? So now I want to create 2 groups. The quickest way is to click this button. I can click twice. Now you will see 2 periods are created and they are running at the same time, Q2 and Q3 here. But you don't see any data down here. That's because I haven't added any athletes into it yet. So for example, if player 1, 2, 3 are in period 2, I can select this quarter 2 first, and then select these 3 players, and then I can click this plus PIP button. That means add these players into the period. Now I click it, you'll see these 3 players are added into this quarter 2. And now if I want to add the rest of the players into quarter 3, I can select quarter 3 first, and then select the other players and plus PIP. Now you will see in this quarter 2 there are 3 players, and in quarter 3 there are 4 players. Okay, if you want to stop both of the periods, if you want to stop all of the periods, you can press this button. It will stop all the periods. If you only want to stop one period, you can right click and stop this one. You'll see this one is stopped and the other period is still running. Again, I can change the name. For example, this one is attackers and the other group is defenders. Okay, now if I want to see the data, I will show you how you can switch between different periods to see the data. Right now, because I selected this defenders group, so it's showing me the data of this group. Also on the right, please note down, if you select the PIP box, it will only show the data for the period. If you select this box, it will show you everyone's data. So right now I want to show only the data for the periods. So now you will see it's only showing the data for these 4 players. And if I select attackers, it's only showing me the data for these 3 players. And you will also see here is a button. You can switch between live and replay. For example, if I go to defenders group, because this period is still ongoing, it's still running, so it's live. If I want to see the attackers, I need to switch it to replay because this attackers group is no longer running anymore. Their period already ended, so I need to switch to replay. And if I want to look at the warm-up data, I can click warm-up. Now it's showing the data for warm-up. If I want to see the whole activities data, I can click this activity timeline. Now it's showing me the whole activities data. And if I want to see it in real time, if I want to see the updated data, I can switch to live. So you see these defenders, these 4 players, their data is still updating. Okay, if right now I want to stop everything, I can click this button to stop everyone. And if I want to see the previous data, I can switch this back to replay again, because now it's not live anymore. No one is running anymore, so I need to switch back to replay. Okay, and if you want to see more metrics in the table, you can go to the table settings and you can go to parameters. There are a lot of parameters available. For example, if I want to see heart rate data, I can go to heart rate. I can just double click heart rate and it's added here. If I want to change the position of the heart rate data, if I want to move it to the front, I can drag this one and move it here. So now it's in the front. And I can also change the size of the table of the font. And then I can click refresh to save the changes. You can also click several new dashboards if you like, for example, one for running data and one dashboard just for the heart rate data, and one dashboard just for the player load data. And also, if I start the session again, now I will select all the players and create a new period. So you will see the session has started again. I'll rename it small sided game. If you want to see the velocity traces, you can also see it live. You can select all the players, right click, and graph. So you can see the changes of their velocity traces. And also, you can also see the heart rate data. You can right click on the tabs here and select heart rate. So the blue traces are the heart rate traces, and the red traces are the velocity traces. This is very helpful to identify if you see the heart rate data is too low, then you can graph the heart rate trace. And if you see the trace is not good, then you can check if they have been wearing the vest correctly, or if the connection was good enough or not. And you can clear the graphs by right click and clear all graphs. And now let me see the live data. Okay. If you have multiple receivers, we can also check here how many receivers has been connected and what's the status, what's the signal strength, and what's the battery status of the receivers. If your training session has ended, you can stop all the periods here, and you can stop the live data here as well. And then you can collect back the devices. Although you are already seeing data here during live monitoring, but the full data is still stored within the devices. So you still need to download the devices. So to do that, you need to connect the dock to the laptop and plug in all the devices, and then go to settings and data transfer and transfer the data. So after the data transfer, you can go back to the main window and click sync. Then it will sync the full data to the cloud, and then you can analyze the data on the cloud.